This is Training Insights, episode 27, and welcome back. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Training Insights. My name is Kevin McGowan, and this podcast is brought to you by Training Magazine. Go to trainingmag.com. Now, about a year and a half ago, when I started this series with the magazine, my first guest was a woman named Karen Chovan. She's based in Saskatoon. That's a hard word to say. Saskatoon, Saskatchewan in central Canada. And so I thought, what better way to kick off season 2 than to invite her back? So here in episode 27, we're going back to Saskatoon to talk to Karen about design thinking and how it can help improve communication in teams and your projects in general. So let's get on the phone with Karen in Saskatoon.
Hi, Karen, and welcome back to Training Insights.
Hi, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. It's really nice to talk to you again. You were the first guest on this thing when we started about a year ago, so it's nice for you to come back and visit again. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, it's great to be invited to come back. I'm always happy to chat.
Today we're going to talk about design thinking. This is something that you've done a lot of research on. I know you do some talks about this and consulting about this. And I've done some research in anticipation, obviously, of the conversation. But I was wondering if I could start off with kind of an anti-question, because I'm reading about design thinking and it makes sense to me. But what is not design thinking? Like, what is the problem this kind of theory is trying to fix?
So design thinking has typically been applied to designing a product or something that people will use. And
right. I
guess more recently it's been starting to be used for applying to processes and investigating things that the ways that people work together. And that's kind of the application that I've been looking at it for, and really how you can use it to help engage the people who you're working with to help solve some problems or improve the relations within the team, for example.
Right. So what is something that might translate from that product view where you're trying to maybe build something for an end, to sell to an end purpose to solve a particular problem that somebody has, whether it be a physical object or software? Well, what's kind of translatable from that, physical space to more of a process space?
Well, it would just generally be more efficient processes. You might find redundancies in your systems of how you manage paperwork or, transfer of information. You might find that there are gaps that need to be filled. You might find that the way you're doing things just really needs a big change and come up with something new altogether. But generally, it would be still how you are working together, and so it's that could involve software or helping move information to the teams or increase the visibility. But a lot of it really is how you're going to interact a little bit differently and maybe raising awareness on what other people are doing.
Right. So it's really kind of a collaborative team approach, I guess. So you're talking about working together to come up with a solution.
Mm-hmm. Well, the whole premise behind design thinking is that it is collaborative and that you have multiple disciplines coming together. Anyone who can be impacted by that process or project that you're working on should be involved, both in terms of defining what the problems might be as well as looking for alternative solutions that can work for everyone.
Right. Now, without maybe naming names, we don't want to get anybody upset, but is there kind of an example or a general example maybe that you've read about or worked through that you've seen this applying design thinking to a process problem or to just an issue maybe that was happening in an organization? I'm just trying to think of a practical example to maybe bounce off of.
Yeah, so I guess I will... design thinking, the terminology and the actual tool is something that came to me in more recent years. And but what I found was that the process that's described was generally what I had been doing in the past when working with some teams. So I'll give an example of an organization where we had a bunch of different sites, so different sites, different teams, all working on the same kind of thing and all relating to waste management. And they're all doing things their own way. They all had their complications and issues. They were all working on trying to find better solutions and not talking to each other. As an organization, that results in a lot of duplicate spending, duplicate efforts, and nobody was sharing wins. And I was in the corporate world, and I kind of saw all of this happening. So I brought representatives from all of the different sites, as well as different departments on each site, each who had a role to play in waste management. And we spent a couple of days, the first step is highlighting what are the issues or what are you actually doing now and what are some of the challenges with that. And to help engage everyone there, I just sort of introduced the topic, and I had key representatives from each site present on what they did.
Yeah.
And it was only 4 speakers, but I tell you, by the time the 4th person got up, they basically were saying the same things. They're saying, I don't have anything else to add. Everything that has been said here is what we're sharing too. And it really just helped meld the group so they all could see they were dealing with the same thing, and that some of them had little wins here and there that they could take away and each learn from. But the next steps of the process was, once they highlighted the core issues, they kind of broke off in groups and worked on priority items in smaller groups, and they all came back with solutions for the majority of those items. And this was, over a day and a half, and that was just to come up with some plans of what they were going to do. And if you think about it from, say, somebody working in a corporate realm, trying to address all these things and engage with each of these operations individually, we had been working on things for a couple of years, trying to make traction. And this day and a half session translated into a lot of these wins being completed within another 6 months after that session. So it was a huge gain in learning for everyone. The network was formed, and they all were able to translate that into changes that were more or less standardized then across all the operations, which has all kinds of other benefits as well. So that's, I guess, one kind of example that I could give.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it sounds pretty textbook, right? Because you've got, I guess, probably people working at cross purposes for various things, and then you get them all in the room, and then they realize, okay, we've all got the same problem. Let's all work together on this.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even that example, even the people who were from, say, one site but in different departments hadn't realized how much their work affected each other until they came together for that. Yeah.
Well, that's actually it's certainly common. I mean, I lived through that in my day job occasionally too. You're working in a team, and sometimes it just happens. You kind of silo yourself, either through design or just because it just happens, and you don't always realize the implications of what you're doing to downstream teams or processes.
Yeah, and it's not even just downstream. It's some systems are quite interconnected throughout the organization, so you can be affected somebody's work anywhere within the organization, and you might not realize it. So, yeah.
One thing that I read in some of the notes you sent me actually was that design thinking is optimistic, and that sounded kind of interesting. How would you call this optimistic as opposed to pessimistic, I guess?
Because you're supposed to go into it with a mindset that anything is possible, and that everyone there has something to contribute, no matter how experienced they are, no matter what realm they're working in. If they're being impacted by this issue, they have some way of improving the system. And so if everyone comes with that mindset of there are lots of great things that can be done, and you think big picture and, the blue sky thinking, anything's possible, people start to build on each other's thoughts. So you might think you have a crazy idea,
Yeah.
But somebody might pick up on a thread of that and go, oh, but actually you have a good point there because we can do this, or we can add this piece. And it's amazing how one person's idea can grow into a big picture, and you find ways of making it happen. So the nice thing about this is you come up with a whole bunch of ideas. You don't say anything and knock things out until you're going through the process of prioritizing.
Right.
So you look at certain things first, and then as you go through the iterative process of prototyping, which is basically you conceptually discuss, how these ideas come together, and you start to see, okay, well, that fits together, that doesn't, and you can sort of weed things out a little bit that way. It doesn't mean they're completely off the table, but it means let's focus on these things first and see what will work for the benefit of everyone.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
So it's almost, it's almost kind of like an agile development type methodology, but it's not methodology heavy. It's not like you're adding extra steps to this. It's really that you're including more people in those early stages. So you're not kind of just picking a solution that might not actually work for everybody. Is that kind of the differentiation?
Yeah, I guess so. I would say it's very closely aligned with the agile philosophy in terms of you generate all of your ideas, you prioritize things, and then you just try things out. I guess the biggest difference is that the agile process typically will still have a lot of items in like a list of things to do.
Like a backlog?
A backlog. And what they'll do is they have a certain time or budget to work with, and they just work through that prioritized list until they get to that limit. Right. And in the meantime, they're testing things. They send it to the customer, get feedback, and come back in a loop and continue on. And when they find issues, they add those to the backlog. This would be really more of you're actually hands-on trying to develop and test things with those end users as opposed to sort of going out for feedback and coming back. Although that, if you don't have everyone in the room, you could still incorporate that piece. Right. Yeah.
So, I know I'm looking at my notes right now. There's various, phases to the process. It doesn't seem, it doesn't seem so, I guess, I'm going to have to edit this out. I can't find my own word. It doesn't seem so systematic. It is a system, but it's not, it's so detailed. It doesn't seem like it's process heavy to go through this.
No, I think that's the nice thing about it. There's a general framework.
Right. That's the word I was trying to think of. Thank you.
Yeah. There's a general framework of discovery, interpretation, of really understanding what all that means. Then you go through an ideation phase of the solutions, experimentation, which is that iterative process of refining things, and then an evolution. So that's where you would sort of go in to implement the solution and, refine and move things along after that. Within each of those steps, you can use all kinds of tools and methods to actually do that. And,
right.
The discovery piece, for example, the way I like to make it the most engaging and inclusive for everyone at the start especially, is to do something like brainwriting, which is generally having everyone put their ideas on paper or sticky notes, so that you're not being influenced by other people speaking up or being the loudest in the room. Everybody's ideas get on the page. And the nice thing about that is, so one, you get input from everyone. You hear everyone in the room. But when you put those ideas up on the wall, often you'll find people will realize they are thinking the same things. Mm-hmm. Not all, inclusive for all of that, but there will be some trends where everybody will have highlighted a particular set of issues that you really understand that you are speaking the same language, even if you haven't had the chance to do that out loud before.
Well, this is great.
So that's just one method, right? So there's lots of different ways.
Yeah, sure. I can see how effective this would be, in a room, especially, you like you're kind of insinuating you've got maybe that more introverted group who isn't going to speak out necessarily, but using, sticky notes or some other way to get their input up on the board so everybody can see it, and then you start seeing the trends and the common issues, and then it's a great way to get the conversation started.
Yeah, and it cannot even just be because they're introverts, but there might be sensitive topics that people really want to be the first one to say it, especially when it comes to team behaviors and norms and things like that. So
fair enough.
Yeah.
Well, Karen, I'll have to leave it there, but I appreciate the conversation. How can folks get in touch with you if they want to know more about this?
Well, I kind of wear two hats right now, so I have a couple of different business websites. One is called Shift to Lean, and that's with the number 2. So shift2lean.ca, as well as my more sort of mining and sustainability realm is envirointegration.com. And it can be found through either of those channels. I'm on Twitter at Chovan EIS, and I'm also on LinkedIn. People can find me there. So
perfect. Well, I'm sure people will track you down should they need to. But, Karen, thanks so much for taking the time.
All right. Thank you.
I want to say thank you so much, Karen, for coming back yet again. We recorded this interview actually a couple months ago, and it's nice for it to finally see the light of day. So thanks for your patience, and thanks to your patience too, for our many listeners out there in interweb land. I want to thank you very much for waiting for us to come back. So have yourself a great day, a great week, and we will see you again very soon on Training Insights.